The Road Kings of Burbank, the Racers and Riders Club established in 1952. Some of the early members made reputations for their drag racing exploits. Don the Snake Prudhomme was introduced to the Road Kings by Skip Torgerson. He shared driving chores in the club's dragster, and as we all know, he perfected his skills as a driver to become a champion in Top Fuel dragsters and funny cars, and is now a Top Fuel team owner, campaigning a dragster and 2 funny cars. TV Tommy Ivo made his reputation as an actor, a hot rodder, and drag racer. Now, his T-Bucket was featured in many hot rod magazines and movies for its style and low elapsed times. His reputation for building multi-Buick engine dragsters brought him even more fame than his acting. His 4-wheel burnouts were spectacular. He drove Top Fuel dragsters, funny cars, and even a jet dragster. Bob Muravez, a.k.a. Floyd Lippincott Jr., was a master at the wheel of the famous freight train twin-blown Chevy Top Gas dragster and the Pulsator. He set records and won countless events. He was the fastest man on gas when NHRA eliminated the Top Gas class in the early 1970s. In 2001, Bob returned to drag racing. He's driving a Top Fuel nostalgia dragster. The 63-year-old driver has scored 5 impressive wins in his first year back behind the wheel. He has also set a personal best of quicker than 6.07 seconds at over 230 miles an hour. The team of Radican, Safford, and Gady were a fierce competitive team in the 60s. With their Olds-powered Top Fuel dragster, Safford went on to become a pro driver in the Mr. Norm funny cars. Jimmie Miles drove and built the most awesome altereds around. His most memorable experience was when the engine exploded on the starting line. It sent the crankshaft spinning to the pavement below. Now, a photo of that has appeared in many, many publications, and the Magic Muffler altered is embedded in everyone's minds. Other well-known drag racers that helped cement the Road Kings legacy into drag racing and hot rodding annals were the Cedarquist brothers, Tom McCurry, Richard Johnson of Fiasco Engineering, and more. The list keeps getting longer as current members continue to set the standards for racers and rodders everywhere.
To start this festivity off, I'd like to introduce the current president of the Road Kings, Bob Moore.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome everybody to our 50th anniversary kickoff. You know, the Road Kings of Burbank were established in 1952 by Ralph Marshall, and they were initially a drag racing club with a few hot rods mixed in. Some of the early members made reputations for their drag racing, as you can see down here in the front. The list keeps getting longer as current members continue to set the standards for racers and rodders everywhere. Over the time, the club has become more hot rod than race car oriented, but they still hold a club drag racing series at LA County Raceway in Palmdale every year. The club produces 2 charity shows a year to benefit the high school and auto shop programs at the local high schools in Burbank and many other community-based organizations. And we help a couple of students each year to further their education through the scholarship funds. Donations from the Road King events topped over $100,000 in the last decade alone. In 1999, at the NHRA Hot Rod Reunion, the Road Kings were recognized as the Justice Brothers Spotlight Club. Other recognition has come from the Congress of the United States, Eagle One, City of Burbank, and others for their charitable and civic exploits of the club. With over 100 members, the Road Kings continue the racing and rodding traditions of the past. So without any more, let me turn this over to Bob Beck.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, everybody, for coming here. What we've got on display for you behind is a number of the Road King cars. Back there right now, we've got Al Giddens, 68 Camaro. It's a bracket racer, runs low 10s. Stan Dalton's been building that Anglia for about 3 years now. It's finally coming to fruition. He said he dynoed it the other day at over 500 horsepower. He thinks it's just going to be a little bracket car. 500 should get it going good. Thanks to Bruce Meyer, we've got the Greer Black and Prudhomme dragster. It's beautiful, it's restored, and it is just great to look at. The four-motored car of Tommy Ivo is back there, and that car has gone through two members in the club. Both Tom McCurry and Tommy Ivo drove that car, and it is a car that has been a major part of hot rodding and drag racing history. The freight train, infamous machine. You couldn't touch it. Ran it on alcohol and ran it on gas, and as was said before, Bob has got the record in top gas, the last record ever held with that particular car. It's been run since. Bob even ran it at the Hot Rod reunion one year when they brought it out of retirement. These cars are here for you to see. Now, what the club has transformed to lately is hot rodding, and we've got a great selection of our hot rods on display. Frank Nay's 39 Ford Coupe. Don Sigler just finished his Studebaker just a couple of months ago. And the other thing about Don helped put this whole event together. And I'd like really at this time to give Don Sigler a hand for doing all the work to get this going. Bob Moore switched over to a 38 Chevy recently, and he's loving it. Tom McCurry finished just this week the beautiful blue 36 Ford Roadster. Bob Money's 28 sedan is over there, and then many of the cars in the club are outside for you to take a look at. We try to park in the center area, but we had so many cars that it took up more than that. In the club of about 100 members, we have over 200 cars. I'd like to start introducing some of the people to you. Now, before I joined the Road Kings, an older guy driving a beautiful 30s vintage Plymouth pulled up to my house one day and wanted to look at a car that I was working on. Happened to be a 1932 Rockney. He came up and he talked with me. Little old guy. He sounded pretty intelligent, knew what he was talking about the cars. And we left, and we kept running into each other from time to time. When I joined the Road Kings, I found out it was Jimmie Miles. This unassuming, they call him the sleeper because this guy does not look what he turns out to be. And he'll terrorize the strip and the street with his fuel-injected Hemi-powered anything. And if a Hemi can fit, he'll put it in there. A gas wrench is all he needs, and it'll fit. Jimmie Miles, the magic muffler altered. I remember the crankshaft spinning on the ground. That picture's embedded in my mind. Jimmie Miles, why don't you come up and tell us a little bit about the history of the Road Kings and you?
Let's see. I got this. We originally started this club in 1952. To be precise, on November 17th, we held our first meeting in Burbank, and there was approximately 17 to 19 people at that meeting. And from then on, it just kept on growing. We still have all but 5 of those people with us, but the rest of them seem to be doing pretty good. My interest in drag racing started in 1951 when I had a very good friend of mine come up to me one day, and he says, we're in high school, and he says, how would you like to go to the drag races? And I says, well, I've never been to the drag races. He says, well, come on, let's go see it. So that Sunday we went up to Saugus. That was the only one around that was really close. We had Santa Ana, but that was quite far away. So we went to Saugus. And that's where it all started. So when we got out of high school, I took and bought a 49 Ford, and we put in a 296-inch flathead, which we ran for about 2 years in the late model gas class that they had up there. At that point in time, I decided you got to have a little bit better car than a street car to compete with these guys, so we built a 41 Ford sedan, all stripped down. And then we started winning with that car. We ran that car up until 1955, and through the time that we ran that car, we had an Oldsmobile in it, and we had a Chrysler in it. With the Oldsmobile, we turned 113. With a Chrysler, we ran 118. I don't know if I'd want to drive that 41 Ford now, 118 at the drags. I see too many things happen to those guys, but then we were young and fearless then. From that point in time, I decided to get a smaller car, so we purchased a 1934 Ford 3-window coupe from one of our club members, Don Sigler. We put a Chrysler in there, carbureted on gas, and we ran it at Saugus, and we ran it at San Fernando both. We captured the record at Saugus in 1956. In 1957, we put a front mount blower setup on the thing, and we ran 125 with that. Then in 1958, we went to a top mount blower thing, and we went to fuel at that point in time. And we ran that car in that configuration until about 1960, and we ended up going 153 with that car in 1028, which was a lot of fun. We had to compete with guys like Gene Mooningham and some of those guys. San Pedro muffler, to name a few. After that, we took and built a Fiat on a Scotty Finn chassis with a metal body. That was in 1962 we finished that car, but prior to finishing that car, we had about a year we didn't do too much, so we went up to Bonneville, and we put the motor in a friend of mine's modified coupe and got him in the 200-mile-an-hour club. After that, we came back and we finished up the metal Fiat, and we ran that car until 1964, which we'd run 170 with that car in about 928. At that point in time, we decided to build a much lighter car, because a lot of the cars then were coming out with putting fiberglass bodies on there like Butch had on his. So we built one of those and had the engine very high in the air, and it didn't handle too well, so we ended up lengthening the car out about 6 inches and dropping the motor about 8 inches, and boy, that made a world of difference. We got that car to run 197. And then I retired that car, and we built the final car that we had. George Britting built the chassis. We used a 23T body, and we campaigned that car from 1970 until 1977. And we ended up getting the strip record down at Tucson. We ran 221 with the car in the high sixes, and from about 660 to about 690 most of the time with the car. And we did pretty good with that car. At that point in time, you had to perform good if you wanted to win. And what we did, we basically ran closed programs with the car, with people like Dave Huff with Nanook, The Mob, Leon Fitzgerald, Pure Hell. We ran with those fellows. We ran from Seattle down to Tucson, Arizona, and as far east as Salt Lake City. We ran 8-car programs, and we did that up until the mid-70s when everything started dying out. So at that point in time, I opted after 25 years, I think I'll try something different. So I built a street rod. This way I could drive it every day and do whatever I wanted to with it and didn't eat all your money up. Okay, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jimmy. Well, as you can see, from the streets of Burbank to the salt flats, the dry lakes, the drag strips, we've been there. Our members have been intimidators since the start of racing, and Jimmie Miles is just one example of that. Now, Tom Jan is remembered by Bob Muravez as having an awesome 3-window coupe, and his dad had the best gas station to meet at in Burbank. It was right across the street from Warner Brothers. They used to meet there, plan what they were going to do for the evening or the day, and go out and terrorize. Here's Tom Jan to tell you more about the early days of the Road Kings from his viewpoint. Tom.
Morning, everybody. I'm really proud to be here. I want to thank Don and the Petersen Museum for getting everybody together again after 50 years. I'm still surprised that at least they're out of jail by now anyway. The things that we did in the Road Kings, I joined in 1953, and I can't remember who invited me in, but I had a little 40 two-door sedan that I put an Olds in, and that immediately wasn't fast enough, so I got this little 3-window coupe, put another Olds in it, and built it up. It was the first 400-inch engine that was around at the time. And I could tell when I joined the club is all these older guys had flatheads. And I could see the handwriting on the wall that this was not horsepower. So I started with the overhead deal, and it just kept on going. My coupe was probably the fastest, well, it was the fastest thing in Southern California for a number of years. I held the record from Bakersfield all the way down to Paradise Mesa, which was in San Diego. We used to drive from Burbank, no Hollywood freeway, no freeways on the streets down to Santa Ana, Pomona, and all those things. Race, drive the car home. You know, no trailers, no big rigs, no Prudhomme deal. But we had fun. Our club was camaraderie. The guys got together every week. We had the meetings at my mom's house for years and years. We had to pay dues, which was a real rip. It was 25 cents a Sunday. And then we'd decide what we do. Our poker runs are notorious thanks to Bobby Muravez. We knew all the sewers of Burbank, Glendale, Hollywood. We've been in all the Hollywood back lots. We've been all the different hotels, Pantages theaters, high tension wires down by the LA River, Griffith Park Zoo, places that nobody would be allowed to go anymore. The funeral home on Forest Lawn. That was one of our stops. But when we had a poker run, it was supposed to be speed limit to stop to stop. Well, it was like a mass rally drag race thing. Everybody took off, and it was as fast as you could go from stop to stop. So we had some pretty fun, interesting situations. If there wasn't a Sunday night that somebody in the Road Kings didn't get stopped, get a ticket, or end up being taken down and talked to their local commandants. I remember Tommy Ivo, when I lived 4 blocks away from Tommy, and he used to walk down to my house. And how do I get in the Road Kings? How do I get in the Road Kings? Not with that 55 Buick lead sled you got. You got to get a car. So Tommy built his tee and started his career from that. We got him in the club, and he's progressed beyond everybody's imagination. So it's been a fun time. The things that we've done back in the 50s, gee, you guys would still be in jail if you tried the stuff that we did. But it kept us out of trouble. It kept us together. We used to band together, go to Bakersfield for the field meets and so forth up there. We'd go to Pomona. We went to all the different drag strips in Mass. And most of the time, we would win just about every class that we had entered. So everybody was looking forward to us coming on down into those areas. Probably one of the most fun things was my street coupe. I used to park in Bob's back up against the wall. A bunch of the club guys, we would sitting around, and somebody would pull in from Whittier or some Glendale or Pasadena with their hottest car in town. And, okay, let's go. We'd go to the River Road, and everybody that was sitting in Bob's, off go the trays onto the ground and over the railings, and away they'd go. And we'd have close to 100 or 200 people down on the River Road racing. Well, I was smart enough to be the first guy that would race, and I'd take off, go back to Bob's. Well, meanwhile, everybody else would start racing, and then the police would come and bust everybody. So it was one of those kind of things that was legends were made of. My dad's gas station was another favorite place. Almost everybody in the club had been there one time or another, or we all went down there. Tommy and I would bring our dragsters down to the gas station. We'd go down the River Road and test them, go back to the gas station and tune them up some more. And just things that are unimaginable to do today at this point in time. I got together with Rod Petmiller and then took my engine out of the coupe, and we put it in it was a Club Model A that we put together. And we went, I think it was 128 miles an hour in a Model A Roadster. Took the record in L competition or something at San Fernando. And then we built a dragster, gas dragster, and we went in the high 139, 40 in the 9-second thing, and progressed through that. And I hope Rod got here today, because I haven't seen him in a number of years, and I'm looking forward to seeing him again. But I'm so proud that the club has progressed to this point, and we've got so many legends and so forth, and I certainly don't consider myself a legend. I just consider myself being fortunate enough to be with a great group of guys that has progressed, and we're still around to enjoy and talk about this. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tom. In true Hollywood fashion, the Road Kings had someone growing up in Burbank that was a star. Now, we got a lot of stars in Burbank, but this one just happened to be bit by the car bug. His name was enlightened on the big screen before he was 10. He did over 200 movies and TV shows. He's got that to his credit, as well as being one of the most famous showmen in drag racing today. His T-Bucket is still remembered by all, and still the car that people remember as being one of the most famous T-Buckets. His prowess behind the wheel made him famous as his movie roles. He gave up the silver screen for the speed and the smell of burning rubber. Please welcome our very own showman, TV Tommy Ivo.
Exactly. No. And Jan says, I surprised everyone. That's little guy determination. They used to tease me about running around in the shower to get wet. I was so small. Well, I took care of that. But anyway, yeah, no, this is one heck of a club meeting here. We used to meet either in my mom's den or in Tom Jant's living room. But we had some fun. It was a lot of fooling around. Actually, oil and bombs was my favorite use of things against the enemy. We'd use it for fun too. Like Kenny Safford here was one time helping me rebuild the motor in my Cadillac. We'd run the wheels off of them Cadillacs, towing the cars around. And he was down underneath there, and I had a quart of oil up there, and pushing the pistons in. He says, "Okay, give me a little oil." So I said, "Okay, there you go." Me and gravity. Gravity was my favorite friend. Then again, there was one time when I got on the wrong end of a garden hose, and Prudhomme snuck up behind me and drowned me from one end to the other. I thought, oh, well, that's funny, and he thought it was great. So the next day I went back, and I had a bucket of oil along with me sitting in the passenger seat. And it was out of my twin-engine car, so there was plenty of oil there to go around. So when we got done talking, I sort of moseyed out to the car, chit-chatting with him, and I opened the passenger door, pulled it out of there, and he looks at it and he says, "What the heck are you doing with that oil in your car?" About that time, he realized what the heck I was doing with the oil in my car, and I unloaded it on him. Jumped in the car and took off, looked back, and he was doing his imitation of Frankenstein, walking toward the house. But there was a price to be paid. We went off, like they said, we used to go to Bakersfield and various races like that. And him and McCurry and his buddies were in one room and went out to dinner. Well, you didn't leave the room empty with Ivo around without a house sitter. That was the wrong thing to do. Obviously, I went in and shredded the place. So when I come back, Prudhomme looks at the thing and says, "That damn Ivo." And McCurry says, "How do you know Ivo did it?" He says, "Well, it's got Ivo written all over it." So they runs in through my door. McCurry has a big pail of oil. Prudhomme has a big waste paper basket, instead, full of feathers, and they oiled and feathered me. So, but you know, that was the time of Mom Apple Pie and the American flag, and it was magic. It was wonderful, and I just couldn't have grew up with a better bunch of guys than we got sitting right here. Thank you very much.
Don the Beachcomber is probably a little bit more flamboyant than most of our guys. He had dragsters, funny cars, a host of race machines. Bob Muravez drove for him at one point in time, and he's probably just as exciting as some of the guys that you may have read about a little bit more, but I doubt it. Don Johnson, Don the Beachcomber. Come on up here.
Well, first of all, I want to say we owed a debt of gratitude to these guys for picking up the ball after we all went racing and playing games and got in the business. And I also want to thank Ivo for getting up this morning. It was a great effort. Yeah, drag racing spoiled him. I mean, you know, those late night motel deals and the whole thing. What I want to talk about a little bit is the requirements to get in the club. You had to have a car that you raced down the drag strip. Street rods weren't really accepted in those days. So we made a special effort to get Prudhomme into the club. For some reason or other, he had promised to buy Tommy Ivo's dragster if we would let him in the club. So he was a special entry. And I'd like to talk a little bit about, my racing. I think everybody knows I raced Top Fuel and funny cars, and set the record at Bonneville at age 26 and had a wonderful racing career. I wouldn't change it for anything. Every time I get up in the morning, I can feel those bones that off the end of the drag strip that were bruised terribly on a number of occasions, but I certainly wouldn't change it. But also to get in the club, there was the hazing process, which I always thought was interesting. It wasn't an easy club to get into because you had to have a drag race car, but the hard part was the hazing. I don't think I'll ever forget Muravez selling balloons in the grandstands at the San Fernando drag strip in diapers. Or Prudhomme running through Bob's drive-in with mayonnaise and feathers all over him in diapers. Or myself dining at the LA Rescue Mission in my diapers. I could go on, but it wasn't easy, but it was a terrific bunch of guys, and I had a great time, and hope that we can all stick together for time to come. Thanks a lot for inviting me.
The next legend is known for racing chassis he built as well. His fuel coupe was faster than the competition could handle. As with many of today's Road Kings members, hot rodding was just as alluring as racing, and his next passion was in the hot rod business. He started a little company called the Deuce Factory. Roy Fjastad's fame and place in the hot rodding history books was established when he created the first die-stamped reproduction 32 Ford frame rails. He went on, he had a dragster race company before that called SPE, Speed Products Engineering. Then he got into the street rods. He's a member of the 200 Mile an Hour Club, and he is the current and past president of the 200 Mile an Hour Club, and now confines his duties to the Full Bore Race Products Company.
Thank you. Well, I'll try and make this brief and go fast forward through my life here, but the Road Kings was a big part of my life in the early days. I started drag racing in '51, won my first trophy at Santa Ana in 1952. I was always involved with drag racing in those days, and having the camaraderie of all the guys in the club that were all and had the same interests was a pretty neat deal. And I can tell you a few Road King stories, but I will. But I actually went to work for Scotty Finn, which was Chassis Research. That chassis has been made. That was the first company to ever produce dragsters on a production basis. And there was a Road King story there. That company was in Englewood, and I was in the valley belonging to the Road Kings. Well, the Scotty Finn, after I'd been there a few months, figured out I was in the Road Kings, and that was not a good thing to him because Prudhomme and Ivo and these guys were all in there, and they had Kent Fuller chassis. So he, in his wisdom, figured I was a spy for Kent Fuller. And every time I'd walk through the shop, go to the restroom or whatever, he'd be working on a project. Well, he'd throw a blanket over it when he saw me coming. Everybody there got a big chuckle out of that one. And as far as the poker runs go, I got my own story. Ivo should dwell on this because he was the devious man that created most of these things. But one night I was on a poker run. I jumped over a fence because I thought I was supposed to be on the other side for some reason. Well, the ground I thought was flat, and it was like this. And I landed wrong, broke my leg. So I ended up in the hospital, and as they're patching up my leg, putting a cast on me, here comes another guy in, and I don't remember who he was. Oh, okay, yeah. He apparently went up through a manhole, pushed the cover up, and it flipped over and smacked him in the mouth, cleaned out all his teeth. So, yeah, so I was laying there and I thought, well, my leg isn't so bad after all. Yeah. But those were the kind of poker runs we had, and it was really a good time. I started my own Speed Products Engineering in '65, built 225 dragsters, and at the same time I got into the street running business, which was about 1966 because Carcraft magazine approached me and wanted to build a T-bucket. And their thought on that was, we build this T-bucket so the home builder can build one. So in other words, we blueprinted every single bracket that went on the car. And they wanted another stipulation is they wanted to be able to buy the suspension parts, in other words, the springs, coils, shocks, and so forth over the counter at an automobile dealer. So we opted for the Corvair suspension, putting the back on the front because the engines were backwards anyway. I built this thing and thought, okay, enough of that, and back to building dragsters. But we were just inundated with calls and letters and stuff, people wanting to buy parts. So I had a good friend of mine who was a really good fabricator and welder, and I said, you want to build these things? He said, I really don't. I got to build dragsters, you know. So we went into the bid, and it turns out we were selling front ends and axles and hundreds at a time, and it was unbelievable. And so that was my entry into the actual street rod business. And then I quit those. I quit building those around '72, and then I had a chopped 5-window 32, and I thought I needed to build a 2-door sedan 32 chopped. So I found one, built this thing, and then at the time I'm doing it, I'm thinking, you know, you can't find these 32 frame rails anywhere. The chassis, they were just getting to be impossible. And there was Westcott up in the north who was building reproduction 32 body, roaster bodies, but I thought, well, what are you going to put them on? So I got the idea, okay, we'll build a 32 Ford frame rails. And that took a year. I found a guy in the same building complex, this German guy, who said he could do the tooling. Between his shop and my shop, we could do the tooling. So it took a year, and we had 12 tons of tooling when it was done. And it turned out a little over 1,300 sets of frame rails before I decided I didn't want to do this anymore. But I was continuing on to build products for the 32s. And that was, back up a second, but I started the Deuce factory in 76, and I'd sold out the speed product. And I went on there for about 20 years. My son and his wife bought me out a few years back, and it's still going strong, obviously. There's adding new products all the time, and I went on and started what I call my retirement business, which is full bore race products, and I make valve adjusting wrenches and stuff, and it's really interesting because I'm not just involved with drag racing, I'm involved with sprint cars, I'm involved with NASCAR, and I sell products to Gibbs Racing and all those guys. So it's been a very interesting career, and very fortunate to be able to do what I love doing all my whole life. And I got to thank the Road Kings again for having this affair. This is a pretty neat deal, and none of us will be here in the next 50 years. So I really appreciate this one. Thank you very much.
Two brothers made the mark in racing, and I was talking to Butch Cedarquist a little while ago. Told them that, I wanted to find out some information about you guys before I put this down into words. And, I met you, I've talked to you, but I don't really know that much about you. So I punched in your name in the internet last night, and it came up on Drag List with all the records and the runs you've made. And he said, "You're kidding." I said, "Yeah, you're that famous." He doesn't think so. Butch and Dave did a great job of racing. They had one of the quickest fuel altereds around, and in 1964 had the record of 9:03 at 171 miles an hour. They were the fastest in 1964 at over 170 miles an hour. They ran with Tim Ryan, and Tim, I think, might be here today as well. Raise your hand, Tim. There you are. Okay, you're hiding out in front of me. No wonder I couldn't see you. Uh-oh. Well, that's from driving those roadsters. No? Okay. They ran every track around, every class, set records, and won all the time. From Inyo Current, Colton to Santa Ana, San Fernando, Riverside, every track in Southern California. Please give a hand and a welcome to the Cedarquist brothers and Tim Ryan, please. He must be the oldest, huh?
I'm the old guy. He looks older than me, though. I'm the fat one. Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody involved in putting this thing together, and I'm very honored to be here amongst all these guys that have done far more than I ever done in drag racing. I started out as a young kid in high school, 16 years old, with a 32 street roadster, and it had a little 8x8 flathead in it. And the first place I ever ran was Saugus. And from there, I decided that the flathead wasn't the way to go, and the overheads were starting to come out, so I put a little Dodge Red Ram overhead in the roadster and played with that for a while and started getting more serious into the drag racing end of it. And as things progressed, I progressed from the Dodge to a 354 Chrysler, which I bought from a friend who had it in a race boat. And I started running the A Street Roadster class, and at that point I took the car and it was street legal, but I didn't drive it anymore. It was strictly a race car. And I campaigned that for several years, and I think I held the records at most of the Southern California drag strips in the A Street Roadster class. And I had a lot of fun. And at that point, my brother came along and became old enough, and we joined up as a team, and the Cedarquist brothers, and decided to sell the street roadster and get a little more serious. So We took the engine out of the street roadster. I sold the roadster, and then him and I bought a 29 roadster that was set up for B roadster, and with a 25% engine setback. And we put the Chrysler out of the street roadster into that roadster, and started campaigning that. And that car is the one that we bought the car without an engine. We took the car and completely redone it, and it ended up on the November issue of Hot Rod 1960. And we raced that car at all the Southern California drag strips, and we were pretty successful with it. And at that point, I'll turn it over to my brother, and he can go on from there. Thank you, everybody.
I want to thank Don Ziegler for putting it on and having us be here. And I got a little Ivo story to tell. One day I was over at Don Gady's, and I had a 41 Packard four-door sedan. And Gady and I were out chasing for parts. We come back, the Packard's gone. We drove all over Burbank looking for my Packard. We finally found it, and it was stuffed with newspaper. You couldn't even get in the car. And we knew who did it. I don't know if you remember that, but we spent half a day looking for that car. But it was fun. We had a lot of good times. I remember seeing Prudhomme take his very first ride. I think he pulled the engine out of your street roadster and put it in Rod Pettmuller's car at Fernando. And so I've seen a lot of those things, and I still love drag racing. If I was a zillionaire, I'd be like Prudhomme and have all kinds of race cars. But I'm not, and we started running the fuel altered, and I'm going to let my partner, Tim Ryan, pick it up from there.
Thank you, Butch. Welcome, everybody. I kind of came into the Road Kings on the coattails of Butch and Dave. For some reason, I didn't have a driver's license, of which I can't remember quite why, but Butch and I were working together, and he came in with a long face one day and said, we blew up the engine in this race car. And I said, what kind of a race car do you have? He said, well, we have this Roadster, and since I'd sold my cars, I called a good friend of mine, Mel Scoville at C&T Automotive, and I said, I need to know something about building Chryslers. He says, you know, I got a guy here that's just starting to build blown Chryslers, a guy by the name of David Zuschel. So we got together, and he put together his, and he helped me with mine, and we threw it in this Roadster, and away we went.
He's been a welcome legend at annual California Hot Rod reunion events. And this year, Don donated one of his prized racing jackets to the auction to help the family of Ken Fuller's son. And he was taken back, I'm told, by the amount of people that remembered him for his racing, his exploits, most of them on the track, and the amount of money that was bid on that one racing jacket. The funds went to help Ken Fuller's son. Okay, Don, I want you to fill us in now on the things that I don't know, which is a lot about you.
This is real rough for me. I had a long list that I was going to follow. And somehow it's disappeared. All of these guys sitting down here, I got stories about every one of them. In my mind, the living legend of the Road Kings, to me, was Tom Chant. I'm very emotional right now. I'm going to stop apologizing. Tommy Ivo, now, what can you say? It's all been said. Jimmie Miles, Jim took me under his wing many times. Very dear, loyal friend. Butch and Dave, and Tim, we had a lot of fun times. They're just memories that'll last forever with me. I wish everybody that was here could have been in that era. And I remember one of the first times we ever won any money one time. We went to a little drag strip up near Bakersfield, Taft. And, well, we went to another strip most of you have never heard of, too, in California, Balico. Anybody ever hear of Balico? Anyway, we won $25. And Bob was like, on a cloud. He wasn't even on this earth. And real proud of that $25 top eliminator. My dad had bought a brand new 58 Ranchero and got a camper shell for it. And we all got in that thing and took off for Bonneville. We didn't know what the hell we were doing. All I know is I woke up in the middle of the night. Car seemed like it was going pretty fast. And I looked at the speedometer, and there was no needle there. And this car had a 290 gear, and a big block in it, so it was going pretty good. Of course, we're going over all these hoop-de-doos out by Palmdale. That's a wonder that myself and most of these guys have lived through some of the stuff we've done. I was there when Roy broke his leg and Bill lost his front teeth. I'm real proud to have been part of the Road Kings. I always have been. I'm not active now. I've been moving around a lot. Don't want to bore you with my life history as far as that, but every time I come to an event or something, it's the first thing out of people's mind is, where are you living now? Well, I'm alive and living in a little place up in Central Oregon, working for a company that most of the racers here know by the name of Smith Brothers, who make push rods that we used to buy 40 years ago. And I'm loving it. Get my first retirement check in about a month from the Social Security. If I can trust them, I mean, I don't know. I've heard they're kind of slow. It's been a great life. There's nothing I would have rather done than to grow up in Burbank. I do want to say that Kenny Safford, which was my second partner, Bob Muravez, my first partner, I owe him a debt of gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. One of the things about the Road Kings that's probably unique and compared to some of the other clubs is we have 2 members of the NHRA Drag Racing Hall of Fame. We've got a third coming soon. Kenny Safford will soon be inducted into the Hall of Fame, and we'd like to congratulate him for that. He's got a distinguished driving career. Nitromethane seems to be in his veins. The famed Sauer Sisters Oldsmobile. He drove for Ted Gatelli in Northern California. He switched to Mr. Norm's Funny Cars and made a big move to Chicago, and that was all the road for Kenny. He's been back there ever since, haven't you? You come out every once in a while for an event. Brought your 59 Chevy El Camino last time, didn't you? Still got the El Camino. That's a beautiful one. We saw it at the NHRA Hot Rod Reunion. Now, I joked with Kenny over the PA system in a little while ago about him being a little bit bigger than the car was, but I'm glad he's still got a good sense of humor, and he's going to tell you a little bit more about it right now. Kenny, come on up.
Well, first of all, it's an honor to be here with all the Road Kings. We want to thank Petersen Publishing and Bruce Myers for giving us this opportunity to have this party here for all the original Road Kings and the existing Road Kings. Some of the things that we used to do was we did a lot of street racing, which wasn't really legal in those days, but there was a stretch of road there along Forest Lawn Drive they call the River Road. And as Tom Janton was saying, that we used to collect ourselves to look like Bob's, and somebody'd say, well, let's go race, and next thing you know, there's 30, 40, or 50 cars out there racing. And we did this for probably 2 or 3 years, and I'd finally sold my 57 Chevy to start building the dragster that Don Gady and Radican and I, we all took part in, and I had my mom's 56 Ford Business Coupe, which was pretty fast, a stick shift, and we all got caught out there one night. They blocked off the river road on both ends with cop cars, and they took all of us off to the Hollywood police station. Well, the bad thing was, is I had my mom's car, she didn't have another car, and she had to come get me in a taxi. Little upset about that. But that was one of the highlights that we used to do. The poker runs, it was just pure magic. I mean, the stuff that Ivo and Muravez and everybody got together, and I remember there's one hill that we had to run up to the top to get the cards, and we're running as fast as we can, and we get about halfway up the hill and says, boy, my feet are starting to get heavy. Well, they had covered the whole hill with horse manure. So quite a deal to get to the top of that hill and get back down and get all in one piece. Just want to thank Rod Pillmiller and Edmund Janke and everybody that lent a hand to recreate the Oldsmobile dragster that we have here that you see today. That it's really been an exciting time for us. And I want to thank everybody for coming. I want to especially thank, well, we have a friend in the hospital, Randy Scoville, who's been waiting on the list to get a kidney for 6 years, and he got it last night. So all our best thoughts over to him. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, as we all know, Tommy Ivo played a lot of parts in the movies and was never really known for any other name other than his own to general people. But one of our members is more known for who he wasn't than who he was. Floyd Lippincott Jr., a.k.a. Bob Muravez, was one of our famous members who raced under the name of Floyd Lippincott Jr. so his parents wouldn't find out. Well, one day at the Hot Rod reunion, his wife Sharon was getting a little antsy. They were going out to dinner, and she said, "Where's Bobby? I can't find Bobby." Hi, Bobby. And I said, "Well, no problem. I'll put it over the PA system. I can get him there." So I go, "All right, Floyd Lippincott Jr., all's forgiven. You can go home now. The family's waiting for you at the car." How many weeks did you get calls from people saying your family finally knows?
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. Now, Bob was a hired gun. He drove the freight train, Don the Beachcomber's car, the Surfers. He drove with Don Gady, the Pulsator. He returned to Top Fuel. His first year in Top Fuel with the good guys, he has won 5 events in Top Fuel. They call him B-Main Bob at Good Guys.
No, I have a full main too.
You got a full main in India.
Yeah, full main, that's right. Thank you. Thank you, Dick Messer. Thanks everybody here at the museum and for everybody showing up. I've been told by my guys on the right here to keep it really short, right? The Road Kings was a great club to get involved with in the 50s. I want to tell you 2 quick stories. The time that Don Prudhomme saved Tommy Ivo's life, okay? Don Prudhomme had Ivo's car, and I had a car with Ed Janke, who's here, and I beat Don Prudhomme at San Fernando Drag Strip. I actually beat this legend. It was unbelievable, right? But the problem was he protested me, okay? So at the club meeting, they talked about how Road King members should not protest each other to drag races. He was right, of course. I was too big a motor for the class, but only by 5 cubic inches, right? So we're going to throw him. The whole deal was we're going to throw Prudhomme in the Los Feliz fountain. So we all, after the club meeting, we all got together, and we went to the Los Feliz fountain, right? I'm standing back about 5 or 6 feet, and they're getting down real close to the edge of the water, right? And everybody's, and all of a sudden, Ivo looks at me and says, "Hey, Bob, we need your help." So I walked over, they dropped Prudhomme and grabbed me, threw me in the water, okay? I skipped off the water, out onto the edge of the thing, and all I could see was everybody running, because they all seen how mad I was, right? And I seen these little bodies, shaking off and going off in the sunset. It was Ivo. So I run up next to him, tackle him, got him on the ground. I was just ready to give him a knuckle sandwich, and Prudhomme pulls me off. Prudhomme, imagine that, okay? Where's your hat? And then there's one more story. Everybody's heard about my poker runs I set up. I've run people through tubes. I even one time hung a dead body in one, up in a bunch of leaves and that stuff. A friend of mine worked at the morgue, but it was a John Doe, so nobody knew this guy, right? But there was time where there used to be there was a natural gas collapsible tank over by the Brew 102 right across the freeway from the Alameda train station. And I had put one of the stops up on top of that big scaffolding and that stuff. So you had to go over a brick wall. To make a long story short, Prudhomme was there with everybody else, and he had a pocket full of M80s. Remember that, Skip? Remember that, Butch? You remember that, right? So all these guys are up on this catwalk walking around this big, huge tank, and he's up there lobbing M80s, right? About ready to blow up Los Angeles. We would have all been vaporized if that baby went off, right? But it's great being with the Road Kings and all these guys. And there is one more member of the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame. It's not really a person, it's a car. I was able to induct a freight train, a car I was able to make my career of. It was also inducted into the Drag Racing Hall of Fame, plus the 2 guys who built that car, John Peters and Knife Frank. So I think there's 3, soon to be 4, members in the Road Kings. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you, Bob. A lot of interesting stories coming out, some of the things you may not have even known. Now, the next guy may be best remembered for the fact that he was one of the owners of the famous 4-engined Ivo dragster. He's the man responsible for putting the bodywork on it. He called it the Wagon Master at the time. Tom McCurry drove this car, and I still remember seeing it in the magazines. It was great. This long, tall, skinny guy sitting alongside this station wagon. Tom also drove Junior Fuel, and one of the advantages he had was he was very lightweight, and the car could maintain its speed. Tom soon became one of the biggest guys in drag racing. Tom McCurry. Now, he's also a bit of an antagonist, but we'll let you tell him about it.
Well, I guess the first car I owned was Don Johnson's, what they called the Blue Bottle. It was actually built in Burbank by Daddy's Auto Body, I believe. And I think I had Prudhomme's motor out of the single-engine Buick car that he bought from Ivo when he went racing with, I think, Zuchel. They put the Chrysler in it, and never paid you. And I had an injected Chevy car I ran for a while, and then opportunity came to buy the four-motor car from Ivo. It had been on the tour circuit for many years, and I think Ivo thought it was all done making money, and I had this brilliant idea of putting the body on the car to revive it, which Ivo tried to buy it back from me after that, but and then I campaigned it for about another 8 to 10 years, I think, and then I finally sold the car. I was done with it, and now I'm just happy to get up every morning, like the rest of them. And I started out racing with Don Prudhomme. I had a street car, a little 35 coupe that we used to race. I'll never forget when we put a pump in the glove compartment, an actual pump like an old Ascot car, and we ran a copper line to the gas tank, and we thought pumping pressure in the tank would make it go faster. And I get in a race, and I tell him to pump, and he used to pump that pump, and all it would do would flood the carburetors and catch on fire. You know? And we used to grab the blanket off the seat and stuff it in the carburetors to put the fire out, you know. But those were the good old days. And Skip Torgerson, he's responsible for us getting in the club. We met him at the Rainbow Roller Rink in Van Nuys, I think about 1953 or 1954. And we've been friends ever since then. And as a matter of fact, Skip works for me now. He runs my warehouses in LA, so we've become very close friends. That's it.
The next one is Skip Torgerson. Now, although I talked to everybody in the club, the biggest thing that sticks out in their memory is his claim to fame is bringing Prudhomme into the club. However, they do say that he was a good straight driver at the drag strip. He could go right down the center of San Fernando every time and take out the lights in the Bill Martin plumbing car. He also drove a dual-engine motorcycle. This guy's got some cojones, let me tell you. Let's hear what Skip Torgerson has to say about his days in the Road Kings.
Well, that's true. I took out a few lights with Prudhomme's instructions. I remember one night, the first time I ever been in a car. I was on the line at Long Beach, and the guy just said, bring the engine. It was a 400 Junior car for Bill Martin. He said, just bring the engine up and side-set the clutch. And I said, okay. So I brought the engine up, and I'm shaking like a dog shitting peach seeds. But anyway, I brought the engine up, and bam, I killed it. I said, oh, Jesus. So we push it down, push it back, bring it up again, bingo, I killed it. So finally, the announcer in those days said, oh, it's the first time in the car for the guy, give him a little slack. So Snake walks out, and he leans down by the car, and he said, look, put this goddamn thing right on the floor and just sidestep that thing. Because what I would do is I'd let the clutch out, and bingo, I'd release the gas a little bit, and I'd kill it. I did just what he said, and I don't know, I ran 168 or something like that. But you know, we talked about Don Ivo's exploits in the club. I remember one night, well, we were all there, everyone. Well, there's a lot of guys here. We had an old 37 Chevy that we wanted to kill one night. So this is about 11 o'clock, and we ran this thing, and we put a rod through the side of the block, and we took water and just poured it in there, and we got all the way to the top of Barham Boulevard, and up on the hill there, and she died. She froze. So we nursed her back down the hill, parked her there at Barham and the River Road, and so what are we going to do with this thing? So the guy said, well, God, I don't know. So we looked over, and there's the river over there. Somebody checked it for wallets and this and that, and there she went. She hit the fence and went right down into the river, and bingo, the lights went on, and the horn was beeping, and here's all of us guys, man, into our cars and back to Bob's. Now, here's a sweeper driver. He's coming by, and he looks down, and he sees this car down there, and he sees the lights on. Oh, Christ. So he calls the cops, and here's the cops coming flying down Riverside. And if they had just stopped and looked over at Bob's, there's about 14, 15 Road Kings all sitting in there. It's at midnight, eating dinner that wouldn't have sold in the streets or in Bob's. So anyway, that went by okay. That was the end of that. And at that time, I was working at General Motors in Van Nuys along with Don and Gady. I think, Gady, you were working there too, weren't you? Who was that? It was your brother. And anyway, and I said, God damn, we don't get caught in this, they'll go to jail, man. I don't know. So nothing was ever said. We got by for, I don't know, 5, 6 years. One night about 11 o'clock, the phone rings. And he says, this is Sergeant Williams, Los Angeles Police Department, Burbank Police Department. We found a fingerprint in this car that relates to you. And I said, oh, really? And he said, yeah, in the river. And in the meantime, in the back, I heard somebody, I said, okay, you bastards. And I hung up the phone. Now it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm in bed. My mother's doing some sewing. My brother's in the guest house in the back with his wife. And didn't hear anything. And all of a sudden, this bomb went off between my house and the neighbor's. And it blew the windows right out of my mother's house, the neighbor's house. The neighbor fell out of bed. And I tell you, the whole goddamn area just lit up like daylight. And my mom jumps on the phone. Our house has been bombed. So here comes the cops. So I knew the cop, Bill Federson at the time. And we're standing out there, and he says, who do you? I said, I have no idea. So here come a neighbor around the corner. He come right down and says, I think I knew who did it. And I said, really, who? And he said, oh, it was a white 57 Cadillac. I said, okay, stop right there. I'll take care of it from here. And there was 2 other culprits, possibly 3, sitting here. Yeah. Look, Safford turns around and looks. And Don and McCurry. And to this day, McCurry swears to this day, Muravez was there, and I think Ray Cash was there. Oh, yeah. And to this day, they swear they had nothing to do with it. So, huh? Yeah. But that was my experience and the best times of my life. And my claim to fame to drag racing is going to the races with Don and Tom and Bobby and Muravez and everybody, and just having a good time, and had a pretty nice roadster. Was lucky to have that. And that was about it. And I enjoy and love all these guys, and it's just so good to see everybody still around and still alive. So my best to all you guys. You're the best.
The last Road Kings speaker is probably one of the most famous drivers in the club. He's got 2 cars here today, his funny car, the Hot Wheels machine down in the lobby. If you haven't been down there, go take a look at it. It's beautifully restored. Plus the Greer Black and Prudhomme car currently owned by Bruce Meyer. Don the Snake Prudhomme, because it was a reaction time, snake-like reactions, is a legend still in the sport. Campaigns 3 cars this year. And I'll tell you what, Bernstein had his hands full all year round. Please, let's give a good round of applause for Don Prudhomme.
I think the thing I most remember about the Road Kings is all the car hops we tried to hustle at Bob's, and that was a great time, you know. And it was great days, you know. I really, really enjoyed it, and I always say, and I guess all of us here today saying that it's probably the single biggest thing that ever happened in our lives, you know. Of course, you know, we all went on and did different things and so on, but I really, I'm not going to get emotional here, but I really think it set the foundation for all of us, you know, especially myself, you know, because Tom and myself and Skip was in a car club called the Chancellors, which, you remember those guys out in Van Nuys? We were in the Chancellors, and they were kind of like punks, I guess, compared to the Road Kings, and we asked Skip, is there any way possible you could get us to the Road Kings? And Skip said, well, I know Ivo and a few of the guys, so we begged him and had to buy him some big boys and hamburgers and all that. But anyhow, he took us to a club meeting, McCurry and myself, and we got in. And what was so cool, of course, it was a drag racing club. And I like cars, of course, and we all did. But the drag racing thing was just awesome, especially the way the Road Kings did it, you know. And they were like, oh man, they were way, way up here, you know, compared to all the other car clubs. So we got in the club, and I got a chance to drive, as somebody mentioned before, the club car, and fell in love with it, you know, because I had bought a T-Roadster to be in the club, and I got a Buick engine in it, took the engine out, and put it in the club car. So Pet Miller and myself used to run the car, and that really, once again, set the foundation for myself and my whole career. And no matter where I go and what I do, even now when people ask me about, well, how'd you get started? Everybody wants to know, how did you get started? You know, they think all of a sudden you end up with all these race cars and tractor trailer rigs and a few bucks, like, because your dad was rich. Well, he wasn't, trust me. He didn't have anything. But the Road Kings are the ones that did that. The Road Kings really set the foundation. And I always say that, and I always try to preach that to kids around the country when we go different places about how they can organize and get in a club. And it's and in the clubs, it seems like one guy looks out after the other guy. If there's any bad apples, they weed them out. And in the Road Kings, there was no bad apples, you know. We were all just a bunch of hot rodders and had a lot of pranks we pulled and everything. And basically, that's about it, you know. And maybe most of you still know I still race, and you know, have some teams, and they're doing really well. And I expect to do it for some years to come. And the great thing nowadays is just like these guys are bringing up the Road Kings. The old guys, us old guys, got the new kids in the club. Well, in drag racing now we got the Larry Dixons and the new guys in drag racing, and that's really makes me feel good. It feels like I contribute a little bit something. But once again, I got my start here, and once again, I want to thank you for inviting me. It's just cool to be with all these guys. Thank God the paramedics aren't out here. You know, I told Tom before I come down we should have the paramedics here in case one of us has the big one. You know. None of us are kids anymore, but it's really great. It's been a ball. It's been a great life for me and in racing, and I really owe it all to the Road Kings. Thank you.
What I'd like to do right now is a lady who'd like to come up and talk to you a little bit. She's not a member of the Road Kings, but everyone in the Road Kings pretty much knows her. She's a famous female broadcaster, one of the early ladies in broadcasting. It seems to be in vogue now that a lady drag racer becomes a broadcaster. This lady did it long before they all did. Dusty Rhodes, please come on up.
How old I am, I used to be able to jump up there, but I have to have help now. Anyway, I'm president of the American Auto Racing Writers and Broadcasters Association, and last week we had our All-America team banquet, and one of our first drag racers on the All-America team was Don Prudhomme, and he also was elected to our Driver of the Year and won the first drag racer to win the All-America team award, Jerry Titus Memorial Trophy. But I'm here today to present to the Road Kings, congratulations on 50 successful years.
I just have a couple of things to say and it'll be over with. You know, this has got to be the greatest group of hot rodders we will ever see together at one time. And my personal thanks to each and one of you for taking the time to come. I also like to thank Don Ziegler and all the Road Kings that helped put this event on, and my thanks to all the people that came out to share this with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you again for coming out for the Road Kings 50th anniversary. I'm Bob Beck for the Road Kings. Thank you.